So if I can start, treating depression with life skills online. And this is a collaboration between Aware, SilverCloud Health, who developed the programme, and Trinity College. And the introduction is me, and then Life Skills Online, the context is Catherine, and then the results of the Randomised Controlled Trial, Dr. Derek Richards. So a little piece about Aware for people who aren't familiar with it. The organisation was founded in 1985 by Dr. Patrick McKeown and volunteers. Dr. Patrick McKeown is very well known to people in St Patrick's Hospital as well as people nationwide. His work has been phenomenal, and his vision at the start was very much that the best people to support people with depression are people who have an understanding of it themselves, either personally or from supporting others. So the volunteer part of Aware has been really important. There are now 350 volunteers, 15 staff and 12 board members, and the board members all work in a volunteer capacity as well. There's very strong clinical expertise in Aware. The Aware's policies and services are based on striving for best clinical practice. I work with clinical team, Dr. Declan Lyons and Dr. Harry Barry, and they work then again with the board. So just to give you an overview of Aware's objectives, there are three key objectives. The first is to educate the public on the nature, extent and consequences of depression. The second is to provide emotional and practical support to those affected by depression and related disorders. And the Life Skills Online programme that we're talking about tonight fits very much in that objective. And then the third is to support research into the development and treatment of depression and related issues. And again, the lecture tonight very much fits with that objective also. Aware has a number of services. I'm not going to go down through them one by one, but I would encourage each of you to look at the Aware website, and it gives details on each of them. And I would like to mention at this point, we're talking about Life Skills Online. Aware has a second Life Skills programme that is a 6-session programme course that people can attend with members up to about 25 people. So for any of you who might feel, well, actually, I'm not really an online person, there is another option in which you can get cognitive behavioural principles in a very clear, practical, enjoyable way. And the details of that are on the website. So I'd like to give you a rationale for the online life skills. Between the years 2008 and 2010, the Board of Aware commissioned external reviews of all of the services and looked at what was missing within Aware's service and what would be helpful or what would be beneficial to the organisation, to the charity. So there were independent evaluations of the key services in 2011. And one of the things that came out from those was that Ireland has changed and was changing, and that Aware needed to change in response to the needs that people were asking. So one of the key things that was identified was for Aware to have an online presence. So the Life Skills team, just to give you a sense that it's not just one person or 3 people, there's been a lot of people involved in developing the life skills. So from the Aware side, as Katie Hoban has explained, is on holidays at the moment. She manages the service. Anne McCabe, Training and Recruitment Officer, who's been very involved in training, selecting and training people who wanted to volunteer in the line. Claire White, key person in developing the website at the level that it's able to accommodate the life skills online. And myself, and Dr. Katrina Collins is an external evaluator who evaluated the pilot study of the Life Skills Online. And then we've been very fortunate to have 2 people who've worked with Aware as assistant psychologists, Dan Hartnett and then Catherine O'Melia, who's currently assistant psychologist. So that's from the Aware side. And then from SilverCloud and Trinity College, Dr. John Shari, who developed the programme, James Bly, who's with us in the audience, and if there are some questions that we can't answer, I'm really relieved to see that James is here. He thought he was coming for a relaxing evening, but we might get him to work. Dr. Derek Richards, and Gavin Doherty and Dr. Ladislav Timulak. So the life skills journey, I'm going to in a moment hand you over to Catherine, but we're working with collaboration with SilverCloud and Trinity College. And that started in 2012. We developed a program and then piloted it in January 2013 with 69 clients or participants, research or participants of the online program, and 6 supporters. Catherine will go into more detail explaining the role of the supporter. It's a trained, aware volunteer who has a particular role on the program. And there are lots of cognitive behavioural programs on the internet. And the particular benefit of the Aware Online program is that the participants who do it can have the support, if they want, of a trained, aware volunteer. So it's less likely that people will drop out. And then that program, as I said, was independently evaluated by Dr. Katrina Collins, who found that it was really promising and recommended that Aware continued with it. So we went from the initial 69 participants and 6 supporters along a journey. So since March 2013, Aware has recruited and trained a total of 72 volunteer supporters. We launched the program in May 2013, and up until the end of August 2014, over 1,157 people exactly have participated in the program. That's phenomenal, and it just shows that the question for is there a need for Aware to respond to people looking for an online presence? The answer to that is very definitely yes, provided the program works and is effective, and that's why it was important to research it. So we had the Randomised Controlled Trial, or CT, Phase 1, in January 2014, and 56 people participated in that trial. And then we had Phase 2 in March 2014, so we had 76 participants. So we've got a good number of people who have been involved in the research. So Catherine is going to now talk to you about the programme and what it's like. Thank you.
Hello everybody. As Claire has kindly introduced me, my name is Catherine O'Melia and I'm an assistant psychologist with the Life Skills online programme. So I'm just going to go through a brief overview about the programme itself, what it is, how it works, what it's like, firstly for the participant themselves and then for the supporters, which I was one. So first of all, what is it? It's a therapeutic intervention programme for people with mood difficulties, primarily mild to moderate depression. There's 8 modules, including an introductory module, and it's based on the principles of cognitive behavioural therapy. It's an education-based programme, and CBT focuses on the interaction between thinking and behaviour, and it's been proven effective for people with mild to moderate depression. So how it works. It's broken down, the modules are broken down to easy to follow modules, each one with a different theme and a different topic. The aim is to help people to learn, manage their feelings and with simple practical skills to help them cope with life's challenges. There also, as Claire mentioned, that the main part that makes this different, the Aware one different, is that there's a supporter who provides support, encouragement and feedback. And hopefully with the aim of reducing stress and anxiety. So what it's like for the participant. So as I mentioned, it's an 8-week module programme, but there's 7 weeks of CBT-based programme content. Each one covers a different topic, as I mentioned. For example, there's one about spotting thoughts, which allows you to look at your cognitive, the way you think, basically, and how to point out negative thoughts. And there's one then, and I should mention that each one builds on the previous one. So although it is self-directed and the participants can dip in and out of the programme if they so wish, it is helpful if they move in a sequential mode. Also, an interesting part of the programme is that there's a lot of interactive components. First of all, there's quizzes and activities within each of the modules to try and help engagement and encourage them to continue throughout and finish the modules. There's such as backup and support networks where participants can go in and identify people within their backup and support network who might be helpful. And we say someone who can make you laugh or someone who can be there to listen to you when you need them. There's also a range of mindfulness apps. There's a number of them throughout the programme. There are different lengths and different varieties. So there's ones such as a laughing mindfulness app. There is a one while you're eating. There's the longer ones, and for people who maybe are short in time, there's shorter ones. And then there's also interactive ways of putting in thoughts, feelings, and behaviour cycles. So you can enter in your own cycles, and you can do these also on paper. The modules, I should mention as well, can be downloaded. They're PDF forms as well. So if a person isn't that familiar or are happy to be on the computer constantly, they can download the PDFs, print them out, and use them that way. And a lot of the mindful apps, for example, they can be downloaded onto the phones also. And then there's also the more reflective side of the programme, such as the journals. So we encourage participants to reflect on their work throughout each module in the journals. There's take-home messages from the end of each module, which again are great for participants at the end when they finish the programme to look back, and it's a kind of a snapshot of what they've taken home from the module, what they've learnt. And it can be good then, because then they can remember where to go back if they need to. And then a goal of the week. Again, using parts of the programme, we, as a supporter, we try and encourage participants to set a goal, a realistic goal, something small that they can tick off the list, so to speak, and something based on the module. So it could be doing something such as the mindfulness app, or it could be something personal, such as going for a walk or calling a friend. And then, as I said, the most part from my point of view as a supporter is that they get 8 weekly reviews. And these can vary in length. There's a lot of supporter-own style within the reviews, and they are there to provide encouragement and engagement. So once a week they receive one of these, which is pre-scheduled by the supporter. So that's kind of a brief overview of what it's like for the participant. What it's like for the supporter then. As I mentioned, I was a supporter before I became the assistant psychologist with the team. And when we log into the system first, we get some basic information from the participant, which the system gives us, such as how many times they've logged in, which modules they have viewed. Then it's up to the participant then themselves if they want to share more with us. So at the end of every screen, they have a little icon which literally says share, and they can share their work with us. So if they fill out their journal entry, they can then share that with us, and then as a supporter, we can read this and give them feedback on it. And again, this could be helpful if they're setting a goal. We can help them. If it's too ambitious, for example, we can help them break it down perhaps into bite-sized, more doable kind of proportions. And so the more things that the participant shares, the better for us as supporters, the more we can give feedback on. But that's completely up to them. We will provide the encouragement and support anyway. Then we give our reviews. So there's 3 kind of main pillars to the reviews, which we try and stick to and then build around ourselves. So we ask supporters to acknowledge what the participants have done. So whether it's just whether we know they just logged in or whether they've looked at specific modules, we acknowledge their work and then we affirm it, and we tell them well done for doing it. And again, even if we get minimal information off the participant, it's great that they've signed in, for example, it's great that they've signed up for the programme in the first place. And then we make suggestions to the module. So if the participant has mentioned in their journal that they have time constraints, they're working a lot, we could make suggestions that might be helpful, that some of the mindfulness apps are longer, but there's ones that are shorter that they could possibly access. So we make suggestions to the programme then. And that's what it's like as a supporter, basically. I think that's everything. Okay, so that's me. And hand you over to Dr. Derek Richards.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Following on from what Catherine was describing, I'd like to first of all show you a little video of the actual SilverCloud platform, and it'll flesh out something of what Catherine was describing there. So, here we go. This is just a few short minutes, but it'll show you the experience that a user has on entering the program and going through it. And it'll also, at the end of this video, show you the supporter end and how that looks like.
We'll look at the client system first and then demonstrate how a clinician or supporter can offer guided support through the system. The client is at the centre of the system. They start each session at their own personal homepage. They can customise this page with their own profile, list their own supporters. We also provide the client with a monitoring chart, which the client can fill out weekly. Here we are using the ORS measure, but the system can be configured to use any measure. Completing the form is quite straightforward, and the client gets a graphical representation of how they are progressing. Back on the home page, the system encourages completion of the chart by only displaying the last few entries. The system also provides access to a journal. Quick updates can be added straight from the home page. These can then be reflected upon more deeply in the journal. The actual program or intervention being delivered to a client is made up of a series of modules. The client can choose from any of these modules and can jump straight into a specific section of the module based on their preference. The modules in SilverCloud can be made up of any number of subtopics, each containing different levels of rich media or interactive content. This module has 5 subtopics. It has an introduction, some basic concepts, some personal stories, some activities, and a review section. The content itself can be made up of text information, graphics, video, audio, slideshows, and personal stories. The system also contains lots of highly interactive apps. These are presented within the content modules and can also be accessed from the apps page. There are simple quiz-based apps, true-false quizzes, multiple choice options, and more therapeutic ones. There are different list building apps. Here's an example of an app to build a list of your strengths. The client can build a strengths list from our suggested strengths or add their own. There are also numerous charting apps. In this example, the client can record how their mood changes in different situations. Here is another chart which tracks changes in mood based on different lifestyle choices, like the amount of sleep or alcohol taken. The system also has apps for key therapeutic exercises. For example, we have implementations for several of the core CBT ideas. Here the client fills out the different elements of the CBT model to help identify their trigger situations, and can then visualize this on the graphic. We also have mindfulness and relaxation apps for the client to use. Here in the mindfulness application, the client can choose from different exercises and listen to the audio now or download it for later. You can interact with all of these apps online via smartphone, via SMS, or via paper-based versions. And it's just the start. We are constantly refining and building new applications based on clinicians' feedback and needs. SilverCloud also builds a sense of community to help to involve and further engage clients. For example, on all the content pages you will see a like button, an indication of how many others liked this content. This adds a sense of other people moving through the system. The client can also engage with the community by liking the content themselves. This is done in an anonymous way with no threat to the client's privacy. Also, users have the facility to share their suggestions and tips in the Other section of the list apps, which, once moderated, is there for other clients to see and use. This is also true for the take-home point on the review page of each module, where the client can add their own take-home points to the communities. They can also rate the module on the review page, and this flow of feedback allows us to adapt or innovate accordingly. SilverCloud can also directly connect the client to a trained supporter. The supporter can offer weekly, bi-weekly or monthly check-ins to offer encouragement and feedback. The client can choose what information to share with their supporter and can review what has been shared from the Shared tab. Their chart for this week will be shared, along with a record of what modules they viewed and any take-home points or goals they set. Below that is a list of apps the user has shared, and they can also leave notes to communicate with their supporter. It is transparent to the client what is being shared. Their supporter can only see what is on the shared page. But also it is clear that the supporter will not check this page until a set date. The system notifies clients when their supporter has added a review, and the client can view the comment on the shared page. We are logging in now to the supporter side. On the supporter homepage, each supporter can see a list of the clients they are offering support to. Clicking on a client in the list brings them to the client's page. From here, the supporter can see what the client has shared. It is identical to the shared page from the client side. We can see their chart for this week, along with a record of what modules they viewed and any take-home points or goals set. Below that is a list of the apps the client has shared, which can be opened up to review. And finally, the supporter can view any notes the client has left. Having gone through all of this shared information, the supporter can enter this week's review for the client and choose a date when they will next review them. The supporter can then continue down through their list of clients, writing reviews for all those that are due today.
Just to give you a little bit of background to begin with, I think most of us will be familiar with the prevalence of depression worldwide, that it is highly prevalent and that it's only likely to increase in prevalence in years to come. There's early age onset, it involves high levels of chronicity at times, and that in consequence affects our role, our functioning in life, in work, in social circumstances, in relationship. So the burden and its onset and its presence has significant impact on an individual's life, on a family's life, and indeed on the community at large. 12-month prevalence rates in the US have been estimated at 6.6%, in Europe at 8.5%, in Ireland in some studies has been estimated at 10%. Of course, different studies will vary, and obviously there's variation by region, whether it's rural, urban, etc. Also variations by other factors such as age, other risk factors, for instance, gender, where the prevalence is higher in females and males, etc. There are treatments for depression available. Antidepressants are commonly used. However, antidepressants have side effects. There's issues around compliance. That's not to negate their impact or their effectiveness or their utility, not at all. There's also available psychological therapies, a broad range of psychological therapies, in fact, and often individuals have a preference for psychological therapies over medication. The psychological therapy that's been named here in the program as CBT, Cognitive and Behavioural Therapy, is based on cognitive science, which is about thinking and the type of thoughts we have. And thoughts like I'm useless is quite negative. Thoughts like I'm actually very good is quite positive. The difference between thinking one or other of those thoughts has an impact on how I feel, has a consequent impact on my behaviour or how I act. That's the behaviour part of cognitive behaviour therapy. So CBT tries to address the difficulties on two levels, through behaviour and also through cognitions or thoughts. However, psychological treatments, while they are available, such as CBT, there's a large percentage of people in the world that have no diagnosis, official or unofficial, nor do they seek treatment. In fact, the treatment gap in depression, in access to treatment, has been estimated at 56.3% between those who have it and those who can access, and those who have it and those who can't access sufficient or evidence-based psychological intervention. There are many reasons for this. Among them are some of the ones I've listed, such as waiting lists. Often people are put on waiting lists and then over time things change or they move on, or it's a delay in treatment when they really need attention. There's sometimes a lack of motivation for change, particularly among depressed individuals. A negative perception of what could therapy possibly offer me, you know. And this could be related to a negative thought. Oh, I'm completely useless. Nothing can help me. So therefore, it's easy to dismiss potential helps. Costs in some instances are an issue, and of course stigma, personal stigma, around mental health, and actually just facing up to the fact that one might have difficulties with their mental health. And mental health is not static, it's dynamic, it's ebbing and flowing, it changes, it's expected, it's normal. Stress is normal and the consequences also. But when stress and its consequences go into the pathological or become problematic, then it's obviously a problem. In Ireland, in addition to some of the barriers I have mentioned, there are shortage of trained professionals. If you think of CBT in particular as an evidence-based therapy, There's only a small handful. And in general, in terms of the professional psychology, it's difficult to access, shortage of trained professionals. Also, there's a relative underdevelopment of services in Ireland in comparison to other countries. For instance, in the NHS in England, where they use a step care model, online CBT, such as the programme we're talking about, is widely available throughout the NHS. Similarly, in Australia, which have a history of the flying doctor, etc., similarly, online interventions are widely available and sponsored directly from the government, as in the case of the NHS. In Europe, in other parts of Europe, similarly, there's great government funding into health services, and they include online interventions, and importantly so. America, less so, but catching up. Ireland, there is an underdevelopment of services, and there's no presence, essentially, in formal healthcare services in Ireland of online interventions. There is the CIPSI, the community psychology initiative that has started, and online would fit well into that as an adjunct or as a maintenance or prevention intervention. What I'm talking about here is what's called a step care model of treatment, where you have high intensity and low intensity. High-intensity treatment is your face-to-face liaison psychiatry, psychologist, CBT specialist. Low-intensity will be things like bibliotherapy, also online delivered interventions. In the clinical care path of an individual, there's a space for all types, from low to high. Not everybody at each stage needs high-intensity therapy. Oftentimes, a short, brief, targeted intervention at the right time is sufficient. And actually, if we can achieve that more, you prevent the development of chronicity in any of the mental health difficulties. So delivering online interventions is one way to enhance and extend what's currently there as an offering in terms of care for individuals with mental health difficulties. And by looking at it in a step care model from low to high intensity, we could make significant inputs to those who with mild to moderate or even subclinical symptoms, to give them the skills, the strategies to be able to manage better, cope better, so that it doesn't develop into a full-blown crisis situation, or indeed we prevent chronicity in the maintenance after high-intensity therapy. Delivering such low-intensity interventions, whether it's bibliotherapy, i.e. workbooks that are paper-based or indeed online delivered, they can be clinician-guided or self-administered. Here you go, there's the book, off you go. Do the book at home by yourself. That's fine for some people at some stages, if they're motivated enough, if they have the discipline. But oftentimes those people with depression are not motivated enough and need an extra hand or help. So the supporter function is key. This is talked about in terms of the delivery of the online solution through Aware. In all of the research in online delivered interventions, if you allow people go off with an intervention, for example, for depression like the one we're talking about, yeah, they'll do okay, they'll do good. If you add in a supporter at whatever level, even as volunteers, peer volunteers, maybe well-being practitioners, a coach, or even a high-intensity clinician, you'll double your outcome in terms of effect sizes in online delivered treatments. And that's been demonstrated through a meta-analysis technique, a statistical technique that has looked at all the studies worldwide in online delivered treatments, and it's shown exactly that point. This relates to the point, the second one, researching that supports their effectiveness. In terms of the high prevalence disorders, such as the depression and the various anxiety disorders, a lot of work has been done online in the past 10 to 15 years. That work has culminated in a series of papers and research papers published which are meta-analysis, which group all of the results across the world and see, well, are they making a difference? Does this work, really? And irrefutably, the answer is yes. Irrefutably, for anxiety and depression. And then for some others, For some other mental health difficulties, evidence is growing. So moving on then, that's the background. These work. Can we now implement it in a national way in Ireland? The first ever. It's unique. It's never been done before. Aware have given background to their own position in relation to where their services were going, and then this collaboration brings that along in a massive way from a research perspective, from a perspective of service delivery, meeting need that's obviously there, and extending research. So what was our objective? Our objective, to simply state it, can we implement an online treatment in the community, i.e. Ireland, for those with symptoms, significant symptoms of depression, and can that be effective? So what did we do to test this, to actually answer the question? We set up a study called a Randomised Controlled Trial. This is what's known as the gold standard in research, where you invite participants who complete a body of measures at the beginning, psychometric assessment. They're then randomised by computer, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. So at the end you have two groups which are pretty much similar on most variables. So therefore, if you give one group the treatment, which we did, and the other group we left as a waiting list, which we did, while those initial group were going through the treatment. Initially we had 51 in the treatment group and 57 in the waiting list control group. So at the end of treatment, if the treatment group improve over and above those in the waiting group, we can fairly comprehensively conclude it was because of the intervention. So based on this preliminary group, and as Claire mentioned earlier, other greater numbers have come into this, and our final analysis will include well over 100 individuals. But based on this initial phase 1 group, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the results. Again, this course was 8 weeks long, CBT-based, cognitive behavioural therapy. As was mentioned by Celia, that they were asked to do it, encouraged to do it in a linear fashion, 1 module per week. But of course they could choose to mix and match if they so wished, or repeat modules if they so wished. It was supported, and this is a unique aspect of this trial, because the support was by peer volunteers within the AWARE organisation. Peer volunteers. It's not that peer volunteers haven't been used before, but never before at a national level, in a national trial of an online treatment. And the assessments that the individuals were asked to complete included quite a number, but some of the main ones were BDI-2, which is the Beck Depression Inventory. It's a measure of symptomatology of depressive symptoms. The GAD, which is called the Generalized Anxiety Disorder 7, which measures anxieties, not just one, but a variety. And the WASA is the Work and Social Adjustment Scale, which does exactly what it says on the tin. How are you doing in work and social adjustment and functioning, basically? We had other measures. Some were qualitative measures that elicited users' feedback. And while I'm not presenting these today, we're only after starting analysing that data. So what were the results? Well, on the Beck Depression Inventory, which is the inventory for depressive symptomatology, in the treatment group, those who went through the modules of treatment, the pre to post, before they started treatment to after they finished, within group effect size was large. 1.30 effect size by Cone. Let me explain it. If I put up there D equals 20, 20 would be like a mild, a minimal effect. Kind of did some good. If it was 50, you'd say, oh, that was okay. If it was 80, you'd say, wow, that was good. The fact that it's 1.30 means it's almost textbook. You couldn't get it better in terms of the change in participants in the treatment from the time they started to the time they finished the intervention. Equally on the measure on anxiety and on work and social adjustment, you'll see the D, which is known as the effect size in statistics, are 63 and 56. They will be described as moderate to high effects, which are very good, you know. We're very pleased, we're happy. It's a good story. What we can say is that those who used the intervention, went through it with the important element of support, benefited, got better, whatever way you'd like to see it, okay? This is really positive conclusion, really positive outcome. And in the greater group, the larger number, we're expecting to find exactly the same result, which is really positive outcome. In conclusion, some of the highlights and key points to mention here. This is the first national randomised trial, gold standard research of an online treatment for depression in Ireland. That's one thing. The second thing is the use of peer volunteer as supporters. And I need to say, these peer volunteers were trained, and trained well. They have the training that they would traditionally get from the AWARE organisation, topped up with training from SilverCloud Health in the online platform itself and delivering guidance. From a research point of view, we couldn't expect better results. We're jumping up and down like jelly beans. It's great. And lastly, these results demonstrate the possibility of using online interventions as step care in services, not just for AWARE as a charity with its mission and dedication, but nationally within the health services, for instance. Lastly, I would just like to conclude by showing another little video. And this little video is a SilverCloud video. And it just tells you a little bit about SilverCloud, who we are, what we do. And I'll leave that with you. Thanks for your attention, and thanks very much.
One in 4 of us suffer from problems that affect our mental and behavioural health. Taking a step to a more healthy mind can be a challenge. We've spent over 10 years researching and building SilverCloud to help answer that challenge. The result is an online space that's secure, anonymous, supportive and free from stigma. That offers easy-to-use interactive programs, tools and tactics, with built-in social and support elements. Accessible wherever, whenever, and however suits you. All designed by clinical experts with the clear purpose of empowering you to think and feel better, now and in the future. For health services providers, it's a trusted online solution, allowing the assessment of and provision of effective care to many. Addresses the broad spectrum of mental and behavioural health issues. Is built on sound clinical evidence. In partnership with world leaders in their field. Drives outcome by integrating a clinical supporter. Allows for customizable levels of service and easily fits into care paths. Provides detailed analytics and reporting to ensure the highest standards of care and effectiveness. For organizations that need to create a more optimized solution, we offer professional services to help answer your specific needs. Consulting on how best to integrate our solution into your care path. Customizing the platform and content to suit your specific requirements. Detailed reporting that is built to provide unique insight. With training and marketing programs to drive engagement. Offering you a powerful, connected solution. SilverCloud. Making space for healthy minds. Join us.